Have you ever wondered what true justice looks like in a world filled with inequality? They say, the time is always right to do what is right. But what happens when doing what is right feels like an impossible battle? This is a story of resilience, a story of a mother and daughter who faced the harshest realities of racial injustice, yet never stopped fighting for a better future. Their journey will make you reflect on your own beliefs about fairness, courage, and hope. Stick with us to the end, and if this story moves you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button on Behind the Billions, where we share stories that inspire change. The Williams family had gathered for their traditional Thanksgiving dinner, a time to reflect, give thanks, and enjoy each other's company. The aroma of roasted turkey, mashed potatoes, and freshly baked pies filled the air, mingling with the sound of laughter and lively conversation. Yet, despite the warmth of the occasion, there was an unspoken heaviness that lingered in the room, especially at the head of the table where Maya Williams sat, her smile strained as she carefully adjusted her daughter's chair. Her daughter, Tasha, sat across from her, fidgeting in her seat. Tasha, a bright-eyed 6-year-old, had always been full of energy, her laughter ringing through the house like a melody. But tonight, there was something different about her. She shifted uncomfortably, and her small face scrunched up with discomfort. Maya, noticing her daughter's distress, leaned in, her brow furrowed with concern. "Mom, it hurts to sit," Tasha whispered, her voice soft yet full of confusion. Her little hands gripped the edge of the table, as if holding on to something familiar to steady herself. The other family members, momentarily silenced by the unexpected interruption, looked around in quiet concern. Maya's heart sank, and in an instant, all the joy of the evening seemed to drain away, replaced by the overwhelming weight of a reality that was impossible to ignore. Maya gently placed her hand on Tasha's knee, her heart heavy. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. Tasha looked up at her mother, her innocence still shining through, though her discomfort was undeniable. It was then that Maya realized the depth of the moment. Her daughter, still so young, was already beginning to feel the invisible weight of a world that wasn't always kind to people who looked like them. This Thanksgiving dinner, meant to be a celebration, had become a reminder of the struggles that lay ahead. As the evening wore on, the noise of the dinner began to fade, and Maya found herself lost in thought, her mind drifting back to her own childhood. She remembered the warmth of her mother's embrace, the comfort she had found in the simple moments of family life. Yet, no matter how tightly her mother held her, Maya couldn't escape the realities of the world they lived in. Growing up as a black child in America, she had always known that the world viewed her differently. It was in the looks she received when she walked into stores, the quiet whispers she overheard as she passed by, and the doors that seemed to close for her no matter how hard she tried to push them open. Maya's mother had always told her stories of the struggles they had endured, stories of segregation, of the days when they had to sit at the back of the bus and were denied basic rights just because of the color of their skin. She remembered the stories her grandmother told of the hardships faced by their ancestors, how they had been enslaved and treated as less than human. Maya's mother had tried to shield her from that pain, but she couldn't shield her from the reality of living in a country where skin color determined your worth. It was this legacy of pain that Maya carried with her every day. Though she had hoped that things would be different for her children, Tasha's words reminded her that the fight for equality was far from over. The weight of history pressed down on her shoulders, and she felt the generational burden of injustice that had been passed down, a burden she now had to carry for her daughter. The world may have changed in some ways, but the core of the struggle for equality remained the same, an invisible ache that had been passed down through the generations, unspoken but ever present. The following week, Maya attended a community rally, a gathering born out of the heartache that seemed never-ending. The rally was organized in response to yet another case of police brutality, another black life taken too soon, with no justice to show for it. Maya, holding Tasha's hand tightly, walked through the crowded streets, her heart both heavy and full of hope. She had never felt more determined than she did in that moment. The air was thick with the voices of people shouting for justice, for equality, for a world that acknowledged the humanity of black people. Tasha, always curious, tugged at her mother's sleeve as they walked. "Mom, why are all these people yelling?" she asked, her small voice barely rising above the chanting. Maya knelt down to her daughter's level, her hand gently brushing Tasha's hair as she answered, her voice firm yet filled with love. "These people are standing up for what's right, sweetheart. They're standing up for you and me. They're standing up for all of us. But what if they get hurt?" Tasha asked, her eyes wide with concern, not yet understanding the risks that came with standing up for what was right. Maya's heart broke at the question, but she understood the importance of teaching her daughter courage. Sometimes, in order to make a difference, we have to take risks. We have to fight for the future we want to see. And we do it because we believe in something greater than ourselves. Maya squeezed Tasha's hand as they continued to march, the sea of protesters pushing forward with a shared purpose. For every step Maya took, she felt a little stronger, a little braver. This fight wasn't just hers, it was her daughter's, and it was for every future generation who would inherit this world. In the middle of the crowd, Maya realized that this moment was a turning point. Tasha, though small and young, was beginning to understand the power of standing up against injustice. Maya was teaching her that it wasn't enough to sit quietly, to accept the world as it was. No, they had to fight, not just for themselves, but for everyone who had ever been oppressed, silenced, or ignored. This was their fight now, and Maya was determined to see it through, no matter the cost. The days that followed the rally were filled with reflection, and the weight of the injustice the Williams family experienced weighed heavily on Maya's heart. But it also sparked something deeper within her, a fierce determination to never let her children live in silence or fear. The fight for racial justice had been a battle long before her, and it would continue after her. But in this moment, she understood something crucial: change could not come from silence. Change would only come from speaking up, from raising voices that had been muted for far too long. One afternoon, Maya found herself standing at the front of a local community meeting, her voice trembling as she spoke before the group. Behind her, a mural depicting the struggles of the civil rights movement adorned the wall, and as Maya looked at the faces of those who had come before her, she found strength in their legacy. Her hands clenched the microphone, her voice steady now. "I stand here not just as a mother, but as a daughter of this fight. I stand here for my daughter, Tasha, who deserves to live in a world where her worth is never questioned. I stand here for my son, Jaden, who deserves to know that he can reach for his dreams without being held back by his skin color. I stand here for every black child who feels they are not enough, who feels the weight of this world on their shoulders simply because of who they are." Maya paused, the words she spoke holding weight beyond the room they filled. The room, filled with people who had experienced the same pain, the same struggle, sat in quiet solidarity, but Maya knew that her words had done more than just resonate, they had ignited something in each of them. She knew that in this moment, she was not just a mother speaking for her children. She was part of a greater movement, part of a collective struggle for a future where all black children could grow up without fear. Her courage to speak was a message not just to her children, but to the world: justice would not be served until everyone's voice was heard. And Maya had found her voice. Years passed, and Tasha grew into a young woman, strong and confident, her mother's lessons embedded deeply in her heart. The Thanksgiving dinners, once filled with tension and pain, had evolved into moments of reflection, gratitude, and, most importantly, hope. Tasha sat now at the head of the table, not as a child but as a leader, a testament to the courage and strength her mother had instilled in her. The world had not changed overnight, but the progress was undeniable. As she looked around the table at her family, Tasha felt a deep sense of pride. Her mother's resolve, her father's quiet strength, and her brother's unwavering support had shaped her into the woman she was today. She had found her own voice, just as Maya had hoped. And now, she stood on the shoulders of generations that had fought for equality, for justice, and for the right to be seen. Tasha glanced over at her own children, who were laughing and playing in the living room, unaware of the world's struggles, yet carrying the legacy of those who came before them. Their innocence was a reminder of why the fight mattered. They would grow up in a world that Maya and so many others had dreamed of, a world where they would no longer be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. "Mom," one of Tasha's children said, tugging at her sleeve, "why do we always say, thank you, on Thanksgiving?" Tasha smiled, her heart full. "We give thanks not just for what we have, but for the people who fought to make it possible, for the people who made sure that we could sit here today, together, as a family, with hope for a better tomorrow." As the evening unfolded, the Williams family celebrated not just their blessings, but the progress they had made. They honored the legacy of those who had come before them and the promise of a brighter future. For Maya, her work was done. She had passed on a legacy of strength, resilience, and the unwavering belief that no matter how hard the journey, justice was worth fighting for. And as Tasha looked at her children, she knew that the fight for their future was in good hands.